Ladies and gentlemen, it's 11 o'clock. I note informally that we have quorum. The meeting will now come to order. This is the annual general meeting of the members of the Parkinson's Association of Alberta. I'm Martin Kratz, chairman of the board. Surat Maharaj, board director of the Parkinson Association of Alberta, will act as the scrutineer. I will make some brief opening remarks, followed by remarks from our executive director, Lana Tordoff. We will then have time for questions at the end of the formal part of our meeting. Welcome to our annual general meeting. Our annual general meeting is the time when the directors that you elect report back to you on how we've helped to direct our association during the past year. Our board is entrusted to help our association meet its goals, identify and manage risks, and to provide policy guidance to our association and executive director. I report that the 2020-2021 year was a year of progress for our association as we navigated the pandemic. In compliance with health orders, we had to forego an in-person annual general meeting. However, with the amendments we made to our bylaws last fall, we can hold the meeting virtually. During the past year, our board committees have been very active. Our governance committee, led by Jamie Gordon, refreshed a board policy document. Our finance committee, led by Pam Strauss, has worked closely with management to maintain our ability to manage our expenses and adapt our operations in an effort to maintain sustainable operations. We are pleased to have generated a small surplus this year for the first time in a number of years. Our research committee, led by Dr. Oksana Sikorsky, has worked to continue previous research funding and work with management on funding research. Our Human Resources Committee, led by Stephen Rex, was busy as they worked through internal HR policies. The Human Resources Committee is also our nominating committee, was very active in promoting nominations for 4 available board spots. The committee interviewed 16 candidates and worked to present the candidates that you will meet today. While we had room for 4 new directors, we are pleased to report that some of the candidates have already agreed to volunteer on other board or management committees. We struck a new strategic planning committee led by Ken Gordon that is refreshing our strategic planning in light of the changes during this pandemic. This is also a good way for us to reconnect with many of our stakeholders. We are encouraged with the number of highly qualified candidates who wish to volunteer for our association and assist us to advance our cause. Your board is very engaged to support our association's work as we adapt to the current world and prepare for the needs of the growing number of Parkinson patients. Alberta has been in a deep economic slump for a number of years. As we all experienced, COVID-19 has stopped normal business. These external shocks have had a profound impact on Albertans and on our ability to secure sponsorship and donors, therefore on our ability to fund the important services that we provide to our clients. Our staff and management, including our executive director, have been very proactive during this difficult time in order to maintain key services. Our association has run deficit budgets in recent years to seek to maintain services, and we have taken steps to operate with a sustainable balanced budget over this last year and did produce a small surplus. We thank our members, clients, volunteers, all staff in all areas, and our senior management, especially Lana Tordoff, our executive director, for their work during 2020 and 2021 that has led us to numerous successes in the last year. The board is working to help support our executive director and our staff and volunteers in achieving our strategic goals. We're working to improve the effectiveness and functioning of our committees and to help the board work with our executive director on pain points in both client services and fund development. We're optimistic going into our new year to make measurable progress on our strategic goals. I call on our executive director, Lana Tordoff, to share some welcoming remarks as we begin our annual general meeting. Lana?
Thank you, Martin. Boy, it's sure nice to see some of your faces. It's been a while, and I know we've got lots of staff and board here as well, but it's sure good to see some familiar faces. It's difficult to adequately acknowledge the challenges faced by our world in 2020. We recognize and acknowledge the circumstances and situations we found ourselves managing as an organization, and certainly of the friends, clients, and supporters of Parkinson Association of Alberta. It's been our honor to be able to work through it all together with you. Fundraising in 2020 looked quite different. Our inaugural main event gala in February was our last in-person opportunity of the year, and we're pleased to consider it a success. Hopefully we'll be able to duplicate something like that in the future. Going virtual with our FlexAir Step and Stride was an adventure. I can see a couple of faces that would probably agree with me. But our community came through with revenues in the $250,000 mark, so thank you. Our annual fundraising campaign in November and December exceeded our expectations of $60,000 by generating more than $140,000, directly supporting our various areas of work. We thank you all for your investment in our Parkinson's community. Virtual programming has become the expected mode of delivery these days, and although it's not for everybody, participation has been strong. Grocery and prescription pickups and Zoom tutorials became a routine part of our work, and it was rewarding to see folks adapting and continuing to stay connected with us and with each other. New registered programs have seen great success for our clients, and we're excited to reflect and refine as we move forward. Investment was made to our information technology infrastructure, our donor management, online donation tools, our website, and our human resources strategy. These are not fun and exciting things necessarily, but they're important to make sure that we continue to identify opportunities to streamline our processes in order to focus directly on our clients. In 2019, we started to think about how we could become a truly provincial organization without focusing only on regions where we could employ a staff person. The circumstances of 2020 and our learnings and the increased engagement we've seen across Alberta, regardless of where people are living, have allowed us to understand and begin to implement this vision. And we're eager to continue in this vein. Look forward to being a meaningful resource for even more people affected by Parkinson's disease and Parkinson's plus syndromes in 2021. Thanks for being here on this sunshiny morning in Alberta.
It is a wonderful morning. We now return to the formal meeting. The notice calling this meeting, the 2020 audited financial statements of Parkinson Association of Alberta, and the auditor's report was sent to each member. Parkinson Association of Alberta's annual report is posted on the website for all members, and a copy was provided to each member of the board of directors in accordance with the bylaws of our association. In order to maintain the pace of the meeting, we've arranged for some members to make common resolutions and to vote during this virtual AGM. Once a motion has been read, seconded, and discussion from the floor is finished, I will say, will those in favor of the motion signify by selecting yes on the motion that will populate on your screen? No if opposed. Once you select yes or no, please press submit on the bottom of your screen. We will be using a poll function in the Zoom software. You'll have about 20 seconds to select yes or no, and the results of the vote will appear on the screen. I direct that a copy of the notice of calling the meeting be kept by the recording secretary with the records of this meeting.
The recording secretary will.
Thank you, Nicola. Quorum for Parkinson Association of Alberta's annual general meeting is 25 members present or represented by proxy. May I ask Surat Maharaj, do we have a quorum of members present?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Surat. Notice having been properly given and a quorum of members being present, I declare this annual general meeting to be duly constituted for the transaction of business. The business to be conducted at today's meeting is the ordinary annual business meeting, which Parkinson Association of Alberta is required under its governing legislation to conduct, details of which have been given in the notice of the meeting sent to members of the Parkinson Association of Alberta. I now submit for your approval the agenda for today's annual general meeting of the members of the Parkinson Association of Alberta. Are there any additions to the agenda? Not hearing any. May I get a motion?
I move that the agenda of the May 29th, 2021 annual general meeting of members be approved as presented.
Is there a seconder for that motion? And for seconding, could you please state your name so the recording secretary can identify it? A seconder for the motion?
Stephen Rex, I'll second it.
Thank you, Stephen. Is there any discussion from the floor? Will those in favor of the motion signify by selecting yes on the motion that will populate on your screen? No if opposed. Now we have wait for the suspense while all the votes get counted. I declare the resolution is unanimously passed. I now submit for your approval the minutes of the last meeting of the members of the Parkinson Association of Alberta held on September 28th, 2020. These minutes were provided to those who registered for the meeting. Unless members desire that these minutes be read, I suggest the reading of them be dispensed with. I'm looking for a motion to approve those minutes.
Reg Millie, I move that the minutes of the meeting of the members of the Parkinson's Association of Alberta held on September 28, 2020 be taken as presented.
A seconder for that motion.
Oksana Sikorsky, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the floor? Are there any errors or omissions? Will those in favor of the motion signify by selecting yes on the motion that will populate on your screen? No if opposed. I declare the resolution to be carried unanimously. At this time, I'd like to ask that Pam Strauss, Treasurer of Parkinson Association of Alberta, present the Treasurer's report for the year ended December 31st, 2020. Pam?
Thanks, Martin. Good morning, everyone. For the year ended December 31st, 2020, the financial records of the Parkinson's Association of Alberta have been reviewed and audited by Chakowski, Graham, and Hannavelt Chartered Professional Accountants. This was a clean audit and there was no issues or problems raised by the auditors. For the fiscal period of January 1st to December 31st, 2020, Parkinson's Association of Alberta reported a surplus of $26,121. Revenues were down across the board, largely as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and its effects on programming, events, and the focus of many granting bodies in the province. PAA benefited greatly from the substantial grants through both the federal and provincial governments. The generosity of our individual and family donors were also evident in our annual giving campaign that resulted in over $140,000 in investment into our work. Corresponding expenses were also down significantly through proper fiscal management, which supported our ability to end the year in a positive position. At the 2019 AGM held in September 2020, we shared our concerns over the ongoing deficit situation of PAA and forecasted that the changes we're making would improve our circumstances in 2020. Although we did not consider the impacts of the global pandemic, we are confident that the learning and steps we have taken will continue to move us in a positive direction going forward in 2021. As Martin mentioned, for more information, the 2020 Auditors Report The 2020 Auditors Report and audited financial statements have been posted on the Parkinson's Association of Alberta's website. And for hard copies, you may call the head office. And that finishes my report.
Looking for a motion to accept and approve the auditor's report and the audited financial statements.
I move that the members accept and approve the 2020 auditor's report and audited financial statements as presented.
Thank you, Surat. Seconder for that motion.
Kara Ferreira, I'll second that.
Thank you, Kara. Is there any discussion from the floor? Not hearing any. Will those in favor of the motion signify by selecting yes on the motion that will populate on your screen? No if opposed. I I declare the resolution to be carried unanimously. The next financial item is appointment of auditors. I'm looking for a motion to appoint auditors as recommended by both the Finance Committee and the board.
I move that Chakowski, Graham, and Hannavelt be appointed auditors of the Parkinson's Association of Alberta to hold offices until the next annual meeting or until their successors are appointed, and that the board of directors be authorized to fix the auditor's remuneration.
A seconder for that motion?
Stephen Rex, I can second it.
Thank you, Stephen. Is there any discussion from the floor? Will those in favor of the motion signify by selecting yes on the motion that will populate on your screen? No if opposed? I declare the resolution to be carried unanimously and declare that Chakowski, Graham, and Hannavelt Chartered Accountants are duly appointed auditors. Next, we look for a motion to approve past acts. The next item of business, the approval of members of past acts of the Board of Directors and Officers of Parkinson's Association of Alberta.
I move that the members approve and ratify the past acts of the Board of Directors and Officers of Parkinson's Association of Alberta. Surratt Maharaj.
Thank you, Surratt. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I'll second it. Reg Millie.
Thank you, Reg. Is there any discussion from the floor? Not hearing any. Will those in favor of the motion signify by selecting yes on the motion that will populate your screen? No if opposed? I declare the resolution to be carried unanimously. At this time, I'd like to present the next item of business, the election of the Board of Directors of Parkinson's Association of Alberta. I'd like to take a moment to ask those existing board members who are present on the call to wave as I call out their names so you know who they are. Everybody's present virtually. I'm Martin Kratz, Mr. Surratt Maharaj, Dr. Oksana Chikorsky, Mr. Sign Chatty, Mr. Derek Weisbeck, Mr. Stephen Rex, Mr. Jamie Gordon, Dr. Kara Ferreira, Mr. Ken Gordon, Mr. Reg Millie, Ms. Pam Strauss. Under our bylaws, directors are elected for staggered 2-year terms. As a result, Mr. Jamie Gordon, myself, Dr. Oksana Chakowski, Dr. Kara Ferreira, Mr. Ken Gordon, Mr. Reg Millie, and Ms. Pam Strauss do not stand for election today, as they are all within a current term. I would like to thank Reg Millie, Stephen Rex, Ken Gordon, and Doug Critchley, directors of the board, and executive director, Lana Tordoff, for all their hard work and guidance in assisting with the nominating process. As a committee member of the nominating committee, it's my pleasure to advise you that we have a slate of 8 directors to present for your approval today. They bring a high level of expertise and nonprofit experience to your new board, and most importantly, a passionate commitment to the Parkinson's cause. This slate was presented in the notice of meeting and has been reviewed by your nominating committee and approved by our board. I'd like to take a moment to present the board members and other candidates who are present and to have them wave as I call out the names so you know who they are. Incumbent directors who are continuing to run for the board, Mr. Surratt Maharaj, Mr. Stephen Rex, Mr. Derek Weisbeck, Mr. Sign Chatty, who's representative for the Gordon and Diane Buchanan Family Foundation, and new directors, Mr. Marco Diaoka, Mr. Victor Koo, Mr. Brian Bullen, and Dr. Rennie Misfeld. Now looking for a motion to approve the election of those directors.
I move that we, the members of the Parkinson's Association of Alberta, the directors as presented by the nominating committee as listed in the notice of meeting, and that these individuals be duly elected directors of Parkinson's Association of Alberta to hold office for a term of 2 years. As such, earlier time that their successors are duly elected.
Seconder for that motion?
Cara Ferrara, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Kara. Is there any discussion from the floor? Not hearing any. Will those in favor of the motion signify by selecting yes on the motion that will populate on your screen? No if opposed. I declare the resolution to be carried unanimously. I thank those volunteer directors whose term expired prior to or at this annual general meeting of members of the Parkinson Association of Alberta. Their names are in our annual report, but I also identify them. Mr. Grant Kozak, representative from Red Deer, who has served our association with distinction. Ms. Christine Keeler, board member who served in many capacities, most recently on the Finance Committee. Mr. Doug Critchley, current past board chair and former board chair who helped navigate our association through many challenges and was continuing to be active on the nominating committee. Mr. Hanif Faisal, former treasurer who served in the association well, but was transferred for work to Toronto. These directors have served our association as volunteers for many years. Each of them has made important contributions to allow our association to better serve our cause. I kindly request applause for the service of our departing directors and to welcome our incoming board members. Thank you. The next item of business is old business. Is there any old business arising from the minutes? Not hearing any. That moves us to the next item of business is new business. Is there any new business for the meeting? Not hearing any. That takes us to adjournment. As there is no further business, may I have a motion for adjournment of the meeting?
I'll make that motion that we adjourn the meeting. Oksana Sikorsky.
Thank you, Oksana. Seconder for that motion?
Stephen Rex, I second.
Will those in favor of the motion signify by selecting yes on the motion that will populate on the screen? No if opposed? I declare the meeting adjourned. Now is an opportunity that the meeting's over for questions, and we received one question from Ron Bing. And I'll read that question. Whereas the neurologists are the gatekeepers for our Alberta PD community, whereas our client services staff are our gatekeepers for our PAA community, would you consider asking the client services staff to meet with neurologists on a regular basis to better promote PAA with their patients? I'm suggesting that these meetings become part of their performance review and that they be documented so that we have a better understanding of our relationship with the neurologists. I believe management has received this information and is considering it. I also note in our annual report that we have a number of items from members, including clients who have Parkinson's disease, in one case who was referred by a neurologist. So I believe management is looking at working on this as a direction to pursue. Our efforts to reach out to and consume time on the agenda of our neurologist friends, however, has been limited, particularly this last year due to the pandemic. All doctors, including neurologists, have been quite consumed by the COVID matters, and the availability of nurses has been stretched. So that has been made more difficulty in having availability for our medical friends. Any other questions? Not hearing any. I'd like to thank everybody for participation in this meeting. We will have an organizational board meeting that I'd like to start at 11:45 for the incoming board members. And I thank everybody for attending our annual general meeting and making it so smooth. I'd like to specifically thank Nicola for doing all the prep work on getting the motions up. And I think we will expect to have virtual meetings, hopefully with in-person attendance in the future. But this is a way for us to have all our members, regardless where they are in the world, be able to fully participate in our members' meetings. Thank you very much. And have a good weekend, everyone. Enjoy the
Thanks
wonderful.
everyone for joining us.